I never thought the woman who gave birth to me would be the same person to destroy me. But on a cold Tuesday morning in February, my mother stood at the front door of the house I grew up in and told me I had 1 hour to pack my things and leave. My name is Isabella Cooper. I'm 34 years old, and this is how I learned that blood doesn't always mean loyalty. The smell of her morning coffee still hung in the air when she said it. That bitter Arabica scent mixing with the lavender air freshener she always plugged into the hallway socket. I remember how her lips barely moved when she spoke, like the words themselves were poison she was trying not to taste. You need to go, Isabella. I need the space for Richard and his daughter. They're moving in next month and there's just no room for you anymore. Her voice was flat, clinical, like she was reading off a grocery list instead of dismantling my entire world. Richard was her boyfriend of 6 months, a divorced car salesman from Tucson with a receding hairline and a laugh that sounded like a garbage disposal. His daughter Brittany was 22, fresh out of college, and apparently more deserving of a roof over her head than the daughter who'd been paying half the mortgage for the past 3 years. I stood there in the kitchen doorway, wearing my old college sweatshirt and pajama pants covered in coffee stains. My hands were shaking so badly I had to grip the doorframe to steady myself. Mom, I've been helping you with the bills since Dad died. I've been here for you through everything. You can't just kick me out for some guy you barely know. The desperation in my voice made me hate myself, but I couldn't stop it from spilling out. She didn't even look at me when she answered, just kept wiping down the already clean countertop with that yellow sponge she'd had for months. You're 34 years old, Isabella. You should have your own place by now anyway. I've been too easy on you, and it's time you learn to stand on your own 2 feet. The words hit me like a slap across the face. I'd moved back home after my divorce from Marcus 2 years ago, broken and financially devastated, after he'd drained our joint account and left me with nothing but debt and a restraining order against his new girlfriend who'd slashed my tires. My mother knew all of this. She'd held me while I cried for weeks. She'd promised me that this house would always be my home. She'd told me we were a team and that we'd get through anything together. But apparently, Richard's money and the promise of not being alone anymore were worth more than her own daughter's well-being. I packed everything I owned into garbage bags and 2 suitcases within 45 minutes. My childhood bedroom looked like it had been ransacked, posters half torn from the walls, drawers yanked open and emptied, the little ceramic horse collection I'd had since I was 9 years old shoved hastily into a shoebox. I could hear her downstairs on the phone with Richard. Her voice sugary sweet and giggling like a teenager. Oh, stop it, you. Yes, she's leaving today. I know, baby. I'm excited too. We're finally going to have our space. The sound of her happiness while I was upstairs falling apart made something inside me crack open and bleed. I ended up staying with my best friend Carla in her 1-bedroom apartment in Phoenix, sleeping on her couch for 3 months while I tried to piece my life back together. Carla worked as a dental hygienist, and she'd leave for work at 6:30 every morning. The apartment would fill with the smell of her vanilla body spray and burnt toast. I'd lie there staring at her popcorn ceiling with its water stain that looked like Texas, and wonder how I'd let my life become this pathetic. I was 34 years old, divorced, homeless, working as a medical billing specialist making $42,000 a year, and my own mother had chosen a man she barely knew over me. The humiliation was suffocating. I'd see my former high school classmates on social media posting pictures of their families and their houses and their perfect lives, and I was sleeping on a sagging couch that smelled like cat, even though Carla didn't own a cat. I didn't speak to my mother for those 3 months. She called twice in the first week, and I let it go to voicemail both times. Her voice on the recordings was defensive and annoyed. Isabella, you're being childish. Call me back so we can talk about this like adults. You're acting like I committed some terrible crime when all I did was ask you to finally grow up and be independent. I deleted both messages without listening to them all the way through. Carla would come home from work and find me sitting in the dark, scrolling through apartment listings I couldn't afford. "Izzy, you need to eat something," she'd say, setting down Chinese takeout or pizza that I'd pick at without tasting. "I know this is hard, but you're going to get through this. Your mom is going through some midlife crisis or something. She'll come to her senses." But I knew better. I'd seen the way my mother looked at Richard, like he was her last chance at happiness. Like everything and everyone else, including me, was just an obstacle to her fresh start. The turning point came on a humid evening in May, when I was walking past a real estate office on my way back from the grocery store. There in the window was a photo of my childhood home. The house on Sycamore Drive, with the cracked driveway and the lemon tree in the backyard. "For sale," the sign read in big red letters. My heart stopped. I pushed through the door of the office before I could talk myself out of it. A woman in her 50s with reading glasses on a chain looked up from her computer. "Can I help you, honey?" she asked. Her voice had that practiced cheerfulness of someone who'd spent decades in customer service. "That house on Sycamore Drive," I said, pointing at the window display. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "How much is it, and why is it being sold?" She pulled up the listing on her computer. "Oh, this one just came on the market last week. The owner needs to sell quickly, asking $345,000. Apparently she's relocating to Arizona with her new husband." I felt dizzy. My mother was selling the house my father had bought 30 years ago. The house where I'd learned to ride a bike in the driveway, and where we'd buried our dog Buster under the lemon tree. She was selling it to run away with Richard, and she hadn't even told me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on Carla's couch, doing math in my head until the sun came up. I had about $20,000 saved up from working overtime and living as cheaply as possible. My credit score had finally recovered from the divorce. I made an appointment with a mortgage broker the next day. A young guy named Travis who wore too much cologne and typed with 2 fingers. "So, you're looking to buy your first home?" he asked, scanning through my financial documents. "Something like that," I replied. My hands were clenched so tightly in my lap my knuckles had gone white. He ran the numbers, made some calls, clicked around on his computer while I sat there barely breathing. "Okay, so with your income and down payment and credit score, I can get you approved for up to $360,000. The interest rate isn't great, but it's doable. You'd be looking at about $2,000 a month in mortgage payments." It would stretch me thin, really thin. I'd have to keep working overtime. Maybe pick up a weekend job, eat ramen, and give up any semblance of a social life. But it was possible. I made an offer on the house that afternoon, $335,000, $10,000 below asking price. The realtor called me back within 2 hours. "The seller has accepted your offer. She seems eager to close quickly." Her voice was bright and professional. She had no idea she'd just helped me buy my own childhood home out from under my mother. The closing process took 6 weeks. 6 weeks of paperwork and inspections and appraisals. 6 weeks of me saying nothing to anyone except Carla, who looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Izzy, are you sure about this?" she asked me one night while we were watching some reality show neither of us cared about. "This seems extreme. Maybe you should talk to a therapist or something." But I didn't want to talk to a therapist. I didn't want to process my feelings or work through my trauma. I wanted my mother to feel even a fraction of what she'd made me feel. The closing date was July 15th. I sat in a conference room at the title company with fluorescent lights that made everyone look slightly corpse-like. My realtor was there. The title officer. A notary. I signed document after document until my hand cramped. And then it was done. I owned the house on Sycamore Drive, the house I'd grown up in, the house my mother had kicked me out of, the house she thought she was selling to strangers so she could start her new life with Richard. I drove past it that evening just to look at it with new eyes. The stucco was faded and cracked in places. The grass in the front yard was more brown than green. The mailbox was dented from where I'd backed into it when I was 16, and just got my license. But it was mine now. Every inch of it belonged to me. My mother didn't know yet. The way the sale had been structured, she dealt entirely with the title company and the realtors. She had no idea who the buyer was. I waited until she and Richard had packed up everything and moved to their new apartment in Scottsdale before I told her. I called her on a Saturday morning in late July. She answered on the third ring. "Isabella, oh my God, it's been months. I was starting to think you'd never speak to me again." She sounded happy, relieved even, like she'd been waiting for me to get over it and come crawling back. "I heard you sold the house," I said. My voice was calm, measured. I'd practiced this conversation in my head 100 times. "Oh yes, we did. We got a great offer, and the whole thing went so smoothly. Richard and I are all settled in Scottsdale now. You should come visit. We have a lovely 2-bedroom with a view of the mountains." She was rambling, nervous. She could probably sense something was off. "I wanted to let you know that I bought the house, Mom," I said. The words hung in the air for a moment. Silence on the other end of the line. "What do you mean you bought the house?" Her voice had changed. The sweetness was gone, replaced by something sharp and suspicious. "I mean exactly what I said. I'm the buyer. I own the house on Sycamore Drive now. I closed on it 2 weeks ago." I could hear her breathing, quick and shallow. "That's not possible. You don't have that kind of money. You were sleeping on a couch 3 months ago." The disbelief in her voice was almost satisfying. "I got a mortgage, Mom. Turns out I'm not as hopeless and pathetic as you thought I was." There was a long pause. I could hear Richard in the background asking what was wrong. "Why would you do this, Isabella?" she finally asked. Her voice had gone quiet. Almost a whisper. "You kicked me out," I said simply. "You chose a man you barely knew over your own daughter. You sold the house Dad bought, the house where we buried Buster, the house where I grew up, and you didn't even tell me, so yeah, I bought it." "What are you going to do with it?" she asked, and I could hear the fear creeping into her voice now. She was starting to understand. "Well, Mom, funny you should ask. I've been thinking about that," I said. I was sitting in my new house as I spoke, in the kitchen where she'd told me to leave. The sunlight was streaming through the window over the sink. "I'm going to rent it out. I already have a property management company lined up. They think they can get about $2,500 a month for it given the location and the size." Another pause, longer this time. "But you're not going to live in it?" she asked, confusion mixing with the fear now. "No, I'm going to rent it out. I need the income to cover the mortgage and maintenance," I said. "Actually, I have a tenant already lined up. They're moving in next month." The real conversation happened 3 days later, when she showed up at the house unannounced. I was inside measuring windows for new curtains when I heard the aggressive knocking on the front door. I opened it to find my mother standing there. She looked different, older somehow. Her hair was a different shade of blonde, and she'd lost weight. Richard was sitting in the car in the driveway, engine running. "We need to talk," she said. Her voice was tight, controlled, the voice she used when she was trying very hard not to scream. "Okay," I said, stepping aside to let her in. She walked into the house like she still owned it, her eyes scanning everything, taking inventory. "You can't do this, Isabella," she said, turning to face me. "This is my house. Your father and I bought this house. We made a life here. You have no right." I almost laughed. The audacity was breathtaking. "Actually, Mom, I have every right. I bought this house legally. I own it. You sold it to me, even if you didn't know it was me." "I want to buy it back," she said, desperation creeping into her voice now. "I'll give you what you paid for it plus $10,000. Just sell it back to me, please." She was begging, and some small part of me that still remembered being her little girl felt sorry for her. But the bigger part of me, The part that had spent 3 months sleeping on a couch and crying myself to sleep, that part felt nothing but cold satisfaction. "It's not for sale, Mom," I said. "I'm keeping it. I'm renting it out. It's an investment property now." Her face went red. "You're doing this to punish me," she hissed. "You're being vindictive and cruel, and this isn't like you." I stepped closer to her, close enough to see the tiny lines around her eyes that her new makeup couldn't quite hide. "You're right," I said quietly. "I am punishing you. You destroyed me, Mom. You threw me away like garbage for a man you barely know. You made me feel worthless and small and pathetic. So yeah, I'm punishing you. And I'm going to keep punishing you by owning this house that you love so much that you were willing to sacrifice your daughter to keep moving forward." She left after that, got in the car with Richard, who peeled out of the driveway fast enough to leave rubber marks on the concrete. I stood in the doorway and watched them go. My hands were shaking, but I felt lighter somehow, like I'd been carrying something heavy for months and had finally set it down. The house was empty and quiet around me, just the hum of the old AC unit and the occasional creak of the floorboards. I walked through each room, running my hands over walls that held 1,000 memories. This was mine now, all of it, the good and the bad and the complicated. I'd taken back what she'd tried to take from me. The property management company I hired was efficient and professional. They found a tenant within 2 weeks, a young couple from California, both teachers, no kids, no pets. They loved the lemon tree in the backyard. I met them once to hand over the keys. They seemed nice, normal. They had no idea about the history of this place, about what it meant to me, about what it had cost me to own it. Their rent was $2,500 a month. After the mortgage and property management fees and insurance and maintenance fund, I cleared about $200. It wasn't much, but it wasn't about the money. It was never about the money. My mother called me twice more over the next few months. Both times I let it go to voicemail. Both times she sounded angry, entitled, demanding I sell the house back to her at cost, claiming I was being unreasonable and spiteful. I never called her back. Carla asked me once if I felt guilty about what I'd done. We were having coffee at her apartment. I'd moved into my own small one-bedroom place by then. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. "No," I told her honestly. "I don't feel guilty at all. She taught me that people will hurt you if you let them. She taught me that you have to protect yourself because no one else will. She taught me that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally are the ones who will betray you the deepest. So no, I don't feel guilty. I feel free." The house on Sycamore Drive still stands there. The lemon tree still blooms every spring. The driveway is still cracked in that same pattern that looks like lightning, but it doesn't belong to my mother anymore. It belongs to me. Every time the rent comes in on the 1st of the month, I think about her. I wonder if she thinks about me too, if she regrets what she did, if Richard was worth it. If her new life in Scottsdale with the mountain views is everything she hoped it would be. I wonder if she drives by the house sometimes, if she parks across the street and stares at it the way I used to, mourning something she can never get back. I hope she does. I hope it hurts. I hope every time she thinks about that house, she remembers the daughter she threw away, the daughter who learned to be ruthless because her own mother taught her how. I see her sometimes in my dreams, standing at that front door with her coffee mug, telling me to leave, her voice flat and emotionless. But in my dreams, I don't cry. I don't beg. I just smile and walk away because I know something she doesn't. I know that one day I'll own everything she loved. I'll take it from her the way she took my home from me. I'll make her understand what loss feels like, what betrayal tastes like. And when I wake up from those dreams, I feel peaceful, calm, settled in a way I haven't felt in years, because the dreams aren't dreams anymore. They're memories. Memories of what I've already done. The woman who gave birth to me taught me that love is conditional, that family is just a word people use until it becomes inconvenient, that home is just a place you can be kicked out of when someone better comes along. So I took her house. I took the one thing she loved more than me, apparently, and I made it mine. I made her pay rent to live in my world. And every month, when that deposit hits my account, I think about her face when she realized what I'd done. I think about the fear in her voice when she begged me to sell it back. I think about how she threw me away like I was nothing. And I smile because now she knows exactly what nothing feels like. She created this version of me, this person who could be cold and calculating and unforgiving. She molded me into someone who understood that sometimes the only way to survive is to hurt the people who hurt you first. And now she has to live with what she created. I'm 34 years old. I own property. I have a life. I have my dignity back. And my mother, the woman who was supposed to protect me, who was supposed to love me no matter what, she lost everything. She lost her daughter. She lost her house. She lost the last connection to my father and the life they built together. All for a man named Richard, with a receding hairline and a garbage disposal laugh. All because she thought I was disposable. All because she chose wrong. And now, every single day for the rest of her life, she gets to live with that choice. She gets to know that her daughter didn't just survive without her. She thrived. She gets to know that the house she loved so much, the house she was willing to sacrifice me to sell, now belongs to the daughter she threw away, and there's not a damn thing she can do about it.